right, so get ready because today we are going to deep dive into a diplomatic meeting that went a little sideways. It's
Yeah.
less let's shake hands
Yeah.
and more like, well, let's butt heads.
Interesting way to put it.
Yeah. So picture this. The Oval Office, two presidents, a proposed deal involving rare earth minerals, and of course a war that has been going on for 3 years now in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's February 28th, 2025, and the meeting between Trump and Zelensky is about to, well, explode. And not in a good way.
Right. And to understand just how huge this whole thing became, you really have to understand what was at stake. We're talking about a war in Ukraine that has been dragging on for years now, with the U.S. pouring billions upon billions of dollars into supporting them.
Yeah.
So the pressure is on everyone involved to find some sort of resolution. And this meeting, with all this talk of a possible minerals deal and maybe, just maybe, an opening for some sort of peace talks, I mean, well, everyone thought this was going to be a step in the right direction.
Right. This was supposed to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Not just a routine meeting. I mean, this was high-stakes diplomacy with the whole world watching.
Yeah.
And, well, honestly, right from the get-go, you could just tell that the whole personality clash between Trump and Zelensky was going to be a problem.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You've got Trump, who everyone knows, he likes to be blunt. He's a demanding guy, comes into the meeting wanting a resolution right now, a quick ceasefire to just end the conflict as soon as possible. But Zelensky, he's leading a country that's been under attack.
Right.
So he wants to make sure his people are safe, wants some sort of guarantees that Russia won't just turn around and attack again a week later, So
you've got these two leaders. They both want very different things. There's pressure to get something done. And, well, there's a whole lot of tension in the room.
Oh, yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right. Famous last words.
Exactly. Things went really wrong. I mean, this wasn't just a disagreement about policy. This was a complete and total diplomatic meltdown.
Yeah. A total meltdown. And the whole world saw it happen because, and here's the thing, this wasn't some closed-door meeting. Like, the second it happened, details started leaking out everywhere.
Oh, what?
Oh, yeah. Accusations were made. There was shouting. Even Vice President Vance, he got involved. And he made some pretty, let's just say some pretty strong suggestions to Zelensky about how he should be showing his gratitude for all the U.S. aid.
Must have been like watching a car crash in slow motion. You know it's about to be bad, but you can't look away.
Pretty much.
So let's break this whole thing down step by step. How did it all go so wrong? I mean, it seems like it all started with this proposal for a rare earth minerals deal. Like, Trump thought that was going to be the key, right? That this would lead to peace with Russia?
Yeah, he really did. The idea was, this deal would give the U.S. access to all these minerals, and that would maybe appease Russia somehow, make them more willing to come to the table to talk about peace. But let me tell you, even with this potential deal on the table, the atmosphere in that room was intense.
Well, yeah. I mean, you had Trump with his assertive style butting heads with Zelensky, who has shown he's a pretty tough and defiant wartime leader. And then you've got Vance, and it seems like he was there just to strong-arm Zelensky into agreeing to something.
It's true. And it wasn't long before things really boiled over. I mean, there's that moment when Trump just flat out accuses Zelensky of being ungrateful for the billions of dollars in aid from the U.S.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. He even says that Zelensky was gambling with World War III.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah. And Zelensky, to his credit, didn't back down. He argued that Putin couldn't be trusted.
Really? Oh, yeah. He pointed to the 25 broken ceasefires that had already happened as proof that Putin was not a man of his word. So he basically said, look, we can't make a deal with the guy. He doesn't keep his promises.
Exactly. And that really frustrated Trump.
I bet.
And then, that infamous moment where Vance basically demands that Zelensky should be saying thank you for all the help. It was all over the news.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That really lit things up. It seems so disrespectful.
Yeah, it did. And immediately the whole world was talking about it. And that's what's so crazy about stuff like this, One little phrase or even a gesture, like you can see the look on someone's face and it just blows up. Especially now with social media. It's not just diplomats and politicians reacting to this kind of thing anymore. It's the whole world and everyone has something to say about it.
Yeah. This wasn't like some secret diplomatic message that nobody ever saw,
Right.
This was like everyone saw it happen. It's on video, and the reaction online was insane. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone was making memes and tweeting and writing about it.
Oh, yeah. Hashtags, like, you probably saw them. Hashtag Trump-Zelensky clash and hashtag Stand With Ukraine. I mean, they were trending everywhere.
Yeah.
People were sharing clips of that leaked audio and, those photos of Zelensky where he just looks exasperated, like, what is happening? And then the memes, of course.
Oh, yeah, the memes. I saw that one. It was like the Drake posting meme, where Drake is looking all disapprovingly at a picture of Trump, demanding a thank you, and then he's nodding approvingly at Zelensky, like, yeah, you tell him.
Yeah, I saw that one.
And there was another one, it was that distracted boyfriend meme, and the boyfriend was Trump, like he was looking at a quick ceasefire, and the girlfriend was Ukraine security, but he was totally ignoring her.
It was crazy. A mix of like humor and outrage and, political commentary, and it's all happening right there in front of you. And even AI is getting involved. People are making those deep fake videos. Like, imagine that meeting as like a rap battle or a boxing match.
I know, it's kind of wild to think about how technology changes everything, right? Like, how we all see things happen and react to them. It's not just about reading the news anymore. It's about creating content,
Yeah.
making memes and all that stuff. And that kind of shapes how everyone sees things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all just jokes and memes, right? I mean, there were some real conversations happening online too, weren't there?
Oh, for sure. Beyond all the memes and stuff, people were actually getting into the issues. Like I saw think tanks were publishing analyses, like they were trying to figure out what this means for peace talks. And journalists were writing about the history of U.S.-Ukraine relations. And all these legal experts were trying to figure out if Trump could even legally cut off aid to Ukraine.
Wow. So it was like the whole world was suddenly full of Ukraine experts. Everyone looking at maps and timelines and trying to make sense of it all. And this was everywhere, not just English. This was global.
It was really interesting to see, like, the whole world was getting a crash course in international relations. Everyone from, academics to just everyday people weighing in. And here's what's so crazy about it. For the first time, we saw how social media can actually shape what happens in a huge geopolitical event.
It wasn't just diplomats talking to other diplomats anymore. It was like everyone was involved.
Yeah, it was like this big town hall meeting, and anyone could say whatever they wanted.
Wow. But did all this online stuff actually change anything? Like, did it actually have a real impact on what happened?
That's a good question. It's hard to know for sure, but it definitely put pressure on both Trump and Zelensky. I mean, they couldn't just ignore it. All the outrage, all the memes, it was everywhere. Even if they weren't talking about it directly,
Yeah.
it was all happening around them, and it definitely had an impact.
Yeah, like they're playing this high-stakes game of diplomacy, but there are millions of people watching their every move.
Right, and that changes everything. Because in the past, these kinds of meetings, they happened behind closed doors, and then afterwards you got a carefully worded statement. But now it's all happening live in front of the whole world.
So what does that mean for diplomacy in the future?
Yeah.
Like, are we headed towards a world where algorithms and viral trends are in charge?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is a good one.
This whole Trump-Zelensky clash, it was like a wake-up call. It showed us what the future of diplomacy might look like, where it's not just happening in those fancy rooms anymore, but online all the time. It's changing fast, and world leaders are going to have to adapt.
It's like a whole new world out there. And this meeting, it was just the beginning.
Yeah.
We saw how trending topics can take over, they can change people's minds, and they can even affect what these leaders do.
That's right. And it's not just about knowing what's trending. It's about figuring out how to get involved, how to use it to your advantage.
So diplomacy, it's less about making deals in secret and more about, like, winning over people online.
You got it.
So how do we navigate this new world? How do we make sure that diplomacy doesn't get lost in all the noise? Well, we'll tackle those questions when we come back for part 3 of this deep dive. Okay, so we're back, and I think it's time to talk about, well, the damage. Because this wasn't just some, little event that people are going to forget about. This whole thing exposed some real problems, not just between the U.S. and Ukraine, but in global diplomacy in general, especially in this world where everyone is connected online.
You know what worries me the most? It's the trust issue. Like, this wasn't just about the U.S. and Ukraine. Everyone saw it. It was like everyone was watching and thinking, well, if this is how the U.S. treats its allies, what about us?
Yeah, it makes you wonder who they can really rely on.
Exactly. And it makes the U.S. look unpredictable. And when things are already so uncertain in the world, well, that just emboldens countries like Russia. It makes it even harder to find solutions, to find peace.
And then, there's the whole social media thing. It's like we've created this world where memes and what's trending online have as much power as actual treaties and official statements.
It's true. And it is a double-edged sword. Because social media can be a good thing. It can give a voice to people who normally don't have one. It can hold powerful people accountable.
Right.
But it can also be really bad. Because it spreads misinformation and makes people distrust each other, and it can make people just angry at each other.
Yeah, it's almost like diplomacy is now entertainment,
Yeah.
Everyone's watching, reacting in real time,
Yeah.
making memes about it. Which is funny, but it's also kind of scary.
It is scary because it takes these huge issues,
Hmm.
war and peace, and it turns them into jokes and trends. And then it's almost impossible to have a real conversation about them to find any kind of common ground.
It really is, and it makes me think it makes leaders focus more on how they look online
Yeah.
rather than actually fixing problems. It's all about getting likes,
Yeah.
you know?
That's exactly it. It's about clicks and likes instead of real solutions. It's style over substance. They just want to go viral for a few days rather than actually fixing things for the long term.
So is there any hope? I mean, can diplomacy even survive in this new world? Or are we just doomed to fight it out online forever?
I don't think we're doomed, but it's going to be a lot of work. We need to figure out how to use social media for good,
Yeah.
and we need to make sure it doesn't destroy everything.
Okay, so how do we do that?
It's going to take a lot, but here's what we can do. First, we need to make sure people are smart about what they see online. They need to be able to tell what's true and what's not.
Right, critical thinking.
Exactly. And we need to hold those big tech companies accountable, the ones who run these platforms. They need to stop the spread of misinformation. They need to make their algorithms more transparent.
So everyone needs to do their part.
Yeah, and we need to teach young people all about this stuff. How to think critically, how to have a conversation, even when you disagree with someone. All of that is important.
That is a lot to do, but it's important.
If you want to make sure the world isn't run by algorithms, then yes, it is. We need to get back to having real conversations about real issues.
Yeah, and remember that behind all the memes and the online stuff, there are actual people.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a really interesting deep dive. We saw how one meeting where two leaders just couldn't get along, plus all the chaos of social media, well, it really shows you the state of the world right now, doesn't it?
It does. And it reminds us that diplomacy isn't just some, idea. It's something that we have to work at every day. And it takes a lot of understanding, a lot of compromise.
So what's the one big takeaway for our listeners today? What should they be thinking about as they go back online?
Think critically. Don't believe everything you see. Be respectful, even when you disagree with someone. And remember, behind all the trends and the memes, there are real people with